Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your ticker guy coming at you from wonderful Niceville. I'm putting this video out here for those of you that sent me hate mail today about my posts related to Obama's birth certificate and the large number of you that believe that this thing's authentic. Uh, we're going to put the evidence out here for you tonight, and you can judge for yourself. We will start this evening with the AP PDF file, which is found on the internet. This is the file that the Associated Press claims they took a document of and scanned, and in fact they did. What the Associated Press has here and what they have presented to the public is a scanned image of a piece of paper. It has not been tampered with. That does not mean the paper was not tampered with. It means the Associated Press didn't tamper with what they got. There is an important distinction between these two things, and if you don't understand it, you need to go back and think about what I just said for a minute. What the Associated Press did was take this piece of paper, which they were handed, put it in a scanner, and produced a document file, which they then have published. This is as authentic as the piece of paper they were handed, and no more or less. How do I know it is a scan? Because the background is consistent in texture. From edge to edge, even inside this area, there are no overlays. There is nothing showing in the links area, so there are no overlays there. And additionally, I know that this was a color scan because, of course, the image is a color image. And when I blow it up far enough and I start looking at it, I can see the little color fringing around the edges. This is an inherent function of all color imaging sensors. It will always show up if you get the magnification cranked up high enough. The better the quality of the sensor, the less of it you see, but it is always there. If you take your digital camera, take a photograph, blow it up, and you've got some nice bright lines where you got black and white or other sharp color contrasts, you will always find some chromatic aberration around the corners. Normally they'll be red or orange on one side and blue or some other cool color on the other. Depending on which way the sensor is oriented, it could be top and bottom, left and right, right and left. They should be on opposite sides of these edges, and that is what you see here. It is present in each of these cases, and in addition to that, the print that this was scanned from is consistent across the print that is present in the actual text. The numerical index that is here, 6110641, this looks like a mechanical indicia stamp. These are, for those of you that have not been around long enough, if you are not that old, you've probably never seen one. They are a mechanical device that has little rollers inside with the numbers on them, and every time that you could chunk them on the paper, the number advances one number. So the numbers that actually turn, this is fixed because this is the year, these numbers that turn will be a little bit out of registration because, again, this is a set of mechanical drums and they don't line up exactly. So this looks okay. As a scan of a piece of paper. That doesn't mean that the paper that they were given is authentic. It just means that the Associated Press did not do anything unseemly with what they were given. All right, so that's the Associated Press's document. Now let's open up the actual document that is on the website at the White House. And here we got an immediate problem. I've got all these links, all these elements inside this document that all of a sudden show up as separate elements from what was originally purported to be a scan. It's not, and here is why. Let's start by blowing this up and going over to the corner here. You can see I've got safety paper. There's a lot. This paper is designed to have some kind of a watermark that is not visible on a photocopy. Typically what will happen is you'll see something that'll say void or authentic if it's held at an angle, and that is designed not to show up if it is put through a Xerox machine. But I got a problem here. As soon as I come down here to the corner, and let's go down here in this corner, you can see I've got nice sharp definition here, and as soon as I go inside this area where this is printed, oops, guess what? That nice sharp definition has been blurred. What does that tell me? Well, it tells me something very important. It tells me that what happened is that somebody took two images, the safety paper image here as a background, and then laid this other document on top of it. This is not a scan. This is assembled from two different, or more than two, in this case, documents that were put together by computerized means. That is an issue because that's not what we told we were looking at. In addition, I've got another problem here, and that is this date field down here. You can see that I've got these numbers, August, the dash, the 8, and the 6, are not as dark as are the others. Now you could say, well, but this is a monochrome scanner, and it does grayscale, and it's not able to pick this up. Well, that's a lie too, because the background is in color. So the idea that somehow we have this large of a discrepancy between these numbers, and again, if we go back and we look at the Associated Press, and we take a look at theirs, you'll see that on a color scanner, the gradients are much more nuanced. All right? So what the Associated Press has here is a scan, and again, there's that chromatic aberration. And guess what's missing here? No chromatic aberration at all. None. Nowhere in this document do I see chromatic aberration, and that's a huge problem. Now here is the number that we looked at on the AP document, and as you can see, this appears to have been altered. This number 1 here is not correct compared to the others. Notice again, no chromatic aberration. All right, here is the number 1. It is bled through into the background, and again, this looks like this has been assembled. This is not a color scan because there are no color fringes found anywhere on any of these. No matter how far you blow them up, you'll never see them. They're very sharply defined. This document, ladies and gentlemen, did not go into a scanner. The only way you get a result that looks like this is in a black and white scanner, and that's impossible or for that matter, if you set a color scanner black and white. But in this case, that cannot have happened because I've got a color background. All right, so if this was a black and white scan, then you would potentially see that. But if that was the case, number 1, we wouldn't have a color background, and number 2, my background would not be blurred compared to the nice crisp background I've got outside the boundaries. And it ends and starts right at the boundary of this area that has been overlaid on top of it. Ladies and gentlemen, this document has been assembled by somebody on a computer. This was not put in a scanner and was not done the way that you would, that the Associated Press did. Now, here is my further piece of evidence for this. And this ought to be all that you really need to see. This looks very similar to the other one. It should. It is the same document that I just showed you with one important difference. I took it and printed it out with my color printer, and then after I did that, I put it back in my color scanner and scanned it. So it looks very similar to the one that Obama gave us, but there is an issue here. First off, as you can see, the difference that we have here between the background and this inside area has disappeared. That's because the necessary resolution difference that you could otherwise generate can't be generated in this sort of situation, so it doesn't show up. The other thing, and the most important one, besides the fact that there are no elements identified here in the link list, is the fact that if I go up in here and I start looking here, we scan up far enough, you can see again there's the chromatic aberration. I got pink on this side, I got blue on this side. Here's the red, here's the blue. The chromatic aberration is present on this document. This is a scan. This is imaged from a piece of paper. What President Obama gave you on here has been assembled. That's one of the ways, folks, when you look at these things, you have to blow them up. You have to look at them in detail. I do not know when this was assembled, by who it was assembled, or what it is, but I am absolutely confident that the document that President Obama presented to the American people this morning on his website is not a scan or a photograph of an image of something that came out of the book at the Hawaii Department of Health. It was computer generated and assembled by someone. I'm your ticker guy, and this is how it goes.